Hello, Lisa Broyles here with Way to Health MD. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into mold today. This is part 2 of my series, Mold Matters. We're going to learn about some of the different mold species that are toxic because they produce mycotoxins. As I previously mentioned, about 25% of people are genetically unable to process or excrete mold toxins that they inhale. Typically, mold toxicity does not affect everybody, but for those that do, they get very sick. It comes from living in a moldy building or working in a moldy building or driving a car that has had water damage, but it's constant chronic exposure. I'm not talking about ingested molds, I'm talking about inhaled molds. So I want to talk to you about 3 different species today. The first one is called Stachybotrys. Mouthful, I know, but that's the most common mold that's considered toxic, called a black mold. So there were some studies that were done on infants living in urban areas that developed what we call idiopathic, means we don't know what caused it, but thought to be due to the black mold that the infant was living in, caused basically a hemorrhagic lung damage. But basically, Stachybotrys is a greenish black mold. It's found in paper, fiberboard, wallpaper, drywall. The most important thing about this is it produces a toxin called a trichothecene, Trichothecenes. I know that's a mouthful too. But what they do is inhibit protein synthesis, and this creates chronic skin conditions like eczema, dermatitis, worsens chronic pain, sinus symptoms, chronic sinusitis, chronic allergic asthma, headaches, fever, fatigue. So that's why we care about Stachybotrys. The next one is the penicillium, and yes, this is what we make penicillin from, but it's important to understand that this is a greenish mold that you typically see on the walls, and it absolutely can cause allergic asthma, lung inflammation, chronic sinusitis. It's typically found in paint, carpet, fiberglass, dust, insulation, and it has been linked to chronic lung conditions like sarcoidosis and pulmonary fibrosis. And again, all of these molds can cause an allergic type of asthma. The next one I want to talk to you about is Aspergillus. This is probably one of the most common molds that most people have heard about. Aspergillus is a very common mold, typically found in HVAC systems, so in not just the insulation in the ducts, also in carpet. It can be in the walls too. It makes these nasty toxins called gliotoxins and aflatoxins, and the aflatoxins cause the chronic sinus and pulmonary problems, but the gliotoxins, you're talking some neurotoxicity here. So this is where people start to get the chronic headaches, chronic fatigue, brain fog, just can't think straight, even some dementia symptoms, because these toxins are producing these proteins that are actually damaging the brain, the lungs, the sinuses at a cellular level. And the problem is these molds can then colonize the sinuses, the lungs, even the gut, and so they'll produce more of themselves inside your body. So that's why we care, and please refer to my first video as to testing that you can do inside your home. Thank you.